Governor Perry, what's your appraisal of the combat situation on the ground in Afghanistan today, and what would you change?
Let me answer the previous question very quickly, if I may.
Governor, I'd like to move on. Could you give me a sense of your appraisal of the combat situation?
I have a minute, and I can do both in 1 minute, I'll promise you.
And
the issue that has not been raised is that this country can sanction the Iranian central bank right now and shut down that country's economy. And that's what this president needs to do, and the American people need to stand up and force him to make that stand today. Now let me address this issue of Afghanistan and how we deal with it. The mission must be completed there. The idea that we will have wasted our treasure and the lives of young Americans to not secure Afghanistan is not appropriate. But the idea that we would give a timetable to our enemy is irresponsible from a military standpoint. It's irresponsible from the lives of our young men and women, and it is irresponsible leadership of this president to give a timetable to pull out of any country that we're in conflict with.
But Governor, if I can just follow up for 30 seconds. The question was, what's your appraisal of the combat situation on the ground there, and what would you change as Commander-in-Chief?
Well, obviously we're discussing with our commanders on the field about what's going on in Afghanistan. I think we're making progress there. The issue is training up the Afghan security forces so that we're comfortable that they can protect that citizenry and continue to take the war to the terrorists that are using Afghanistan and Pakistan, I might add. Is a very complex part of the world. But I think that our military is doing the best job that they can, considering the lack of support that they're getting from this administration, telegraphing to the enemy when we're going to pull out.
Governor Perry, why is Pakistan playing a double game? Saying that it supports the United States one moment and then supporting terrorists who are killing American troops the next. What's going on there?
Listen, I think we're having an interesting conversation here, but the deeper one is that the Speaker makes a reference to is the whole issue of foreign aid. And we need a President of the United States working with a Congress that sends a clear message to every country. It doesn't make any difference whether it's Pakistan or whether it's Afghanistan or whether it's India. The foreign aid budget in my administration for every country is going to start at $0. $0. And then we'll have a conversation. Then we'll have a conversation in this country about whether or not a penny of our taxpayer dollars needs to go into those countries. And Pakistan is clearly sending us messages, Mitt. It's clearly sending us messages that they don't deserve our foreign aid that we're getting because they're not being honest with us. American soldiers' lives are being put at jeopardy because of that country and the decisions that they're made. And it's time for us as a country to say no to foreign aid to countries that don't support the United States of America.
That's time, Governor. Governor, let me give you 30 seconds in the follow-up to go back to the question. Why is Pakistan playing this double game? Help us understand what's going on there.
They've been doing this for years. Their political people are not who are in charge of that country. It's the military. It's the Secret Service. That's who's running that country. And I don't trust them. And we need to send clear messages. We need to do foreign aid completely different. I'm telling you, no dollars going into those countries. As a matter of fact, if they want any American aid, any country, unless we say differently, then American manufacturing, big companies, small companies, going in to help create economic impact in those countries,
Governor.
rather than just dollars flowing into some administration.
Thank you very much. Governor Perry, you advocate the elimination of the Department of Energy. If you eliminate the Department of Energy...
Glad you remembered it.
I've had some time to think about it, sir.
Me too.
If you eliminate the Department of Energy, what do you do with the nuclear weapons?
Well, there are plenty of places in our government that can have oversight on our nuclear energy. But let me back over to the question that you asked before this about what is the most important thing from a strategic standpoint, Commander-in-Chief. For 10 years, I have been the Commander-in-Chief of over 20,000 plus individuals in the state of Texas as we've dealt with a host of either natural disasters or having deployments into the combat zones. So if there's someone on this stage who has had that hands-on Commander-in-Chief experience, it is me, as the Governor of the state of Texas. I've dealt with generals. I have individuals at the Department of Defense who have been at the highest levels, both on the civilian side and on the military side, that will help me make decisions about those issues that we face as a country. So I feel very comfortable from day one of surrounding myself with individuals who have extraordinary backgrounds in national defense and will be able to put this country on a track that Americans will feel we know that we're going to be secure,
and that's
including
time,
the southern border of this country with Mexico.
And that's time. Thank you.
Governor Perry, with your indulgence, sir, I'd like to change the subject a little bit to China. According to U.S. officials, China is using cyber attacks to steal billions of dollars of intellectual property that is critical to this nation's economic success. Are we, sir, engaged in financial warfare with China?
Listen, there are some people who have made the statement that the 21st century is going to be the century of China, and that, you know, we've had our time in the sunshine. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. As a matter of fact, you think back to the 1980s, and we faced a similar type of a situation with Russia. And Ronald Reagan said that Russia would end up on the ash heap of history, and he was right. Mitt, I happen to think that the communist Chinese government will end up on the ash heap of history if they do not change their virtues. It is important for a country to have virtues of honesty. And this whole issue of allowing cybersecurity to go on, we need to use all of our resources, the private sector working along with our government, to really standing up the Cyber Command in 2010 was a good start on that. But fighting this cyber war, I would suggest, is one of the great issues that will face the next President of the United States, and we must win it.
Governor, thank you. That's time. Governor Perry, we just got a question via Twitter from Barbara McMahon. And Barbara asked this question of you. Does Governor Perry's foreign aid starts at zero include Israel?
Well, at Governor Perry would tweet back to her that absolutely every country would start at zero. Obviously, Israel is a special ally, and my bet is that we would be funding them at some substantial level. But it makes sense for everyone to come in at zero and make your case. As a matter of fact, we ought to try doing that with some of those agencies that I was trying to think the name of the other night. Starting at zero, zero-based budgeting, and Newt will share with you, is we've got to go there, and everyone has to come in and make their case. It's what the American people are doing. There's somebody at home sitting watching TV tonight, looking for a job, and they're having to budget. Why in the world would our federal government get a pass on sending our tax dollars to any country
and Governor,
without having an answer?
We're going to have to leave it right there. I thank you very much.
President Obama, by executive order, stopped the CIA from using classified enhanced interrogation techniques that are not waterboarding. There's a presumption that every person at Gitmo under the Obama administration should go into civilian court, not military commission. And the Obama administration recently said that any future captors in the war on terror would not go to Gitmo. Would you continue these policies? If you would change them, why?
Let me just address Congressman Paul. And Congressman, I respect that you wore the uniform of our country, but in 1972, I volunteered to serve the United States Air Force. And the idea that we have our young men and women in combat today, Senator, where there are people who would kill them in a heartbeat, under any circumstance, use any technique that they can, for us not to have the ability to try to extract information from them to save our young people's lives is a travesty. This is war. That's what happens in war. And I am for using the techniques, not torture, but using those techniques that we know will extract the information to save young American lives, and I will be for it until I die.
How do you prevent the European crisis from becoming a problem on Wall Street?
Well, the French and the Germans have the economic forethought to deal with this. They have the economy. When you think about the euro and when it was established, it was done to be a competitor to the American dollar. They knew what they were doing. And now they find themselves with their overspending and the sovereign debt being built up.
Governor, I'm sorry, but it's the tyranny